Welcome to the DeFinity Market Strategy. I'm Paul Rodriguez of ThinkTrading.com, and I'm here with Manu Choudhary, who's the CEO of DMA Link and the co-founder of DeFinity. How are you, Manu?
Hey, Paul, not too bad. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. So, a bit of a correction in the majors. What's going on in the news?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm not sure if you saw the news, but yesterday evening, our time certainly, I noticed a tweet from PayPal basically saying that they were going to activate Bitcoin payments for millions of their merchants, which is good news. So I would have thought that might have been supportive for Bitcoin, but not so much, it would appear, which is positive. On the not so positive news, interesting rhetoric from Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey earlier this week, essentially saying that he believed that cryptocurrency was being used by criminals as a means of payment. It's like, hello, Andrew, are we back in 2017? Really? You don't understand what blockchain analytics are anymore? You know, it's odd. What's funny about his statement is that he's very concerned about the enthusiasm for what he called a dangerous asset class.
Wow. Okay.
So
but
now, what's even weirder?
Based on what?
Based on evidence he has seen, but I mean,
Okay.
evidence that anyone who can, operate Google search engine looks at will find actually, if you look at the amount of money laundered using digital assets, has actually decreased, whereas the amount of money laundered using cash, for instance, has increased. So I don't buy this narrative. And look, Andrew Bailey's he's not an idiot. He's a smart chap. You don't become governor of the Bank of England by being a half-wit. So he understands this. He's just pushing this narrative, and I think this narrative is being pushed probably by fear. And what's funny is that literally a few days after this statement, what happens? I get an email from Kraken saying, "Hello, we are delisting Monero." Now let's think about Andrew Bailey's comments. So he's concerned that it's used by criminals. Okay, so then you probably would want to get rid of all crypto and ban all crypto if it's that dangerous. But no, he keeps all the cryptos that are trackable and traceable, and he gets rid of the one crypto that cannot be tracked, and where the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve and the US government cannot break the encryption, which I find an interesting coincidence for this week. So anyway, if anyone has received such notification from Kraken, then I would suggest moving everything to KuCoin. They accept Monero, or actually, to be fair, stick it onto the Exodus wallet, for instance, which is pretty awesome, or the Cake wallet. Again, don't forget, not your key is not your crypto, so don't leave large amounts on exchanges just in case. But again, I think just going back to Andrew Bailey, I think we have to also look at some of the other comments that come out. So Christine Lagarde, who's the head of the European Central Bank, she made similar comments about the use in money laundering. But let's think back to 2016, where Christine Lagarde was convicted of her role in a 400 million euro, shall we say, issue with the French government when she was the French finance minister. If we then look at Janet Yellen, again, made some comments about the fact it's used by criminals and it needs to be outlawed. This is the same Janet Yellen that for 2 years prior to the shenanigans of GameStop was going out and doing after dinner speeches. And if you heard this woman speak, I'm pretty sure no one is paying for her to speak after dinner. And lo and behold, the firms that should have been investigated were essentially left out of the investigation, which again, I'm sure is a coincidence. So I think if we look at the conduct of some of these organizations, and of course, let's not forget, serious fraud office investigation of the Bank of England in 2016 for the conduct during the financial crisis. So I don't think these people are in any position to be telling us what is good and what is bad. I think we need to make our own decisions. And it's very obvious to me that they're very concerned about the growth of crypto and enthusiasm. Why are people not enthusiastic with fiat? Because it's only been debased 93% since 1971.
Yeah. So what could they effectively do? Because obviously it's a decentralized asset, so they shouldn't be able to control it, and that's part of the problem. But they are actually making it difficult to transact. So some of the exchanges will say, "Look, we're not going to let you transact in that." So they have got some power to push you into different places. I'm just trying to think how they could stop it, really.
So look, they can and they can't. Okay, so they if you look at the ecosystem of a trade, right? So if you just have pure crypto to crypto trading, they can't stop it. So for instance, if I pay you a Monero or you pay me a Monero, no one knows about that transaction. It doesn't go anywhere. It's between, it's bilateral. No one can stop that transaction from happening ever. But if I want to get Monero off the system into fiat, or if I want to get fiat into Monero, obviously they control the on-ramps. So I suspect what they've probably done, so Kraken uses a company called Payward Limited to do their on-ramp and off-ramp business for fiat. I'm pretty sure they probably would have said, hey, if you don't delist Monero, then we won't let you do any fiat transactions for any of your cryptos. So they probably looked at us and said, well, either we kiss goodbye to our whole UK franchise,
Yeah.
or we play ball and we upset some people, but we get to stay in business. And this is essentially how they will look to control this. But again, the reality is that no matter how much they try and do this, there would always be jurisdictions that are friendly. So, for instance, as I probably mentioned a couple of weeks ago, there's a very small German bank with I think it's a UAE subsidiary called Goldman Lampe, who have integrated Monero wallets into their current accounts. And they couldn't give two monkeys about what the Bank of England or the Federal Reserve say. So, there are jurisdictions that are far friendlier to these kind of things than certainly the UK. But it is disappointing that on the one hand, he's making out that all crypto assets are bad when he knows the case that Bitcoin is the most trackable asset in the world, and he's surreptitiously putting guns to the heads of exchange owners and saying, "Hey, get rid of Monero because it's too difficult."
But at the same time, and just to take the other tack with regard to Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of the others, that's actually not a negative for those, is it? Or are you worried that they might start targeting those just for whatever reason, just because they put them in a list of assets that they don't think the public should have?
I don't think so. I think it's unlikely, because if that was the case, then you wouldn't see people like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan set up crypto trading desks, and half of the banks I've spoken to are looking to set up crypto trading desks. They wouldn't do that without the blessing of the regulators. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case.
And
I think
PayPal,
it's just that
like you say.
And PayPal, yeah. And look, and again, I'm kind of happy when I see things like this, because it means that Bitcoin and crypto become more mainstream. But it's slightly, as someone who appreciates the true value of these assets, it's kind of silly. So why would you take an asset like Bitcoin that since 2009 has had a compound annual growth rate of 220%? Why the hell would you pay for your groceries with it? Why would you buy a t-shirt? It doesn't make any sense. You'd basically keep it, and you'd basically wait and give it to your kids or your grandkids. So this is so fundamentally it's kind of positive because it opens people's eyes to the opportunity. Bitcoin is a crap means of payment. It's too slow. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than Ethereum, but it's not great. It's not very user friendly. And this is another issue that I have with some of these announcements. But I think ultimately, in terms of getting the news out there and gaining popular approval, this is probably a good thing.
Yeah. And so was there any other news that caught your eye this week?
No, that was it. That was the news that I found quite upsetting.
Right. Okay. You probably didn't want to look at any more news after that.
No, I had enough. I was like, I don't want to read anymore.
Great. Okay. Shall I go over to the charts then?
Sure.
Okay. Let's do that then. So so in the weekly, I was literally writing it as I was seeing a correction happening, or potential correction. So it was like literally the market was on a knife edge just while I was writing the weekly document. And it did look as though Bitcoin was going to have an extended correction, which seems to be where we are now. But let's just put all of this into context. So if we start out with the dollar index, which I think is what's causing the problems at the moment, we have seen a great breakout. We were bullish on the dollar, and it wasn't really affecting Bitcoin or the other crypto assets, but it seems to be having an effect at the moment. So this dollar rally, which isn't over, it hit a target of 96.30. And I think it could extend all the way up to this Fibonacci retracement level at 97.72. So it looks like the dollar's got a bit more to go. Now, part of that is that the euro is really weak, and it's weak against sterling. And against sterling, I think the 120 level, which has been there for so long, if it breaks that, we're going to see a massive move. So what's going on in the Eurozone, I don't know, but I think there's trouble ahead for there. But either way, the dollar's rallying in this phase, and I think it's encouraging a bit of either profit taking in Bitcoin or maybe rotation into the altcoins. But either way, we've seen quite a dramatic retracement since the 69,000. But until this turns around, which I think it will when we go into next year, I think there will be a certain amount of pressure on the cryptocurrencies. But I don't think this is the end of any bull phase. I do think we're still in a major bull phase. It's just a question of whether we get a kind of sideways consolidation into the year end, and then into next year, we take off again. So we'll just have to see. play it one step at a time. But if we look at the Bitcoin chart, this was what I was analyzing in the weekly document. We had this little compression in here. Maybe if I move it into a 45-minute chart, you can see what I was looking at. So this line here, this is the resistance and support line that was the breakout from this triangle that took us bullish. And so the market went up. It should have continued. And I think I mentioned on last week's video that the fact that it snapped back so quickly was a bit of a concern. I was like, I'm not sure I like that, but it wasn't enough at that stage to suggest it would go further. It was just like, okay, that should really have just continued. And so we were using this line as a level of support, and the market bounced off it a couple of times. Then it broke through it, and it went into a little consolidation, which is usually, this is what a flag formation should look like. Some people have them really large and extended, but it's not. It shouldn't be like that. It should be really compressed, which is what this is. So it implied that the market would have a lurch lower. But if we look at the bigger picture, it's still within acceptable retracement parameters. You know, the market has been rising since this 29,000 area, and if we look at the retracement, okay, it's not great if you've just bought it, but it's still within this broader upward trend. And so as long as this level here, 53,500 to 54,000, as long as that is maintained, then this broader trend is still bullish. So I think we need to just kind of watch to see how it trades. It may come a little bit lower into that support, but I don't want to see it break that, because if it does, it would have broken really important support. It would have also broken a really important trend line as well. And again, I don't think that would end the bullish trend. I just think it means we'd have to sit for a little while before this next bullish phase kicks in. So sometimes markets come back to these to retest them. You know, they break these major levels and then come back, have another look. That should be a floor support. So for me, that's quite important. Now, if it does break it and we end up in a bigger correction, so be it. It will just give you an opportunity to buy at better levels, because I think everything else seems to be moving okay, especially in the alt world. So so this is Ethereum, and Ethereum again. It's we see this correction within this bullish trend. It's coming back. All the moving averages are still pushing upwards, so this is still a bull trend, but it's just coming back to its support line. Actually, it's just started to rally again, and 40.30 was a really good resistance support level, which is fairly close to it, and the trend line as well. So, and we've got the medium-term moving average all at these levels. So I wouldn't want this to go. I wouldn't want this level to break. That would be a bit of a bearish short-term environment for that to happen. But there's no major topping pattern as yet, and I think that's important. So where we would see into next week how this is going to trade. If we get a nice decent bounce, I think rejoining the buy trend would be if it breaks this resistance line here. So I'm using that as a kind of hurdle for the market to get over, to say, look, okay, now we're strong enough for this trend to resume. But in the moment, we're week to week in a corrective phase. Now, interestingly, the Ether Bitcoin spread is still sort of bubbling up in this range. And indeed, it's heading up towards, well, what I would see is this massive breakout level at 0.0820. So this is a short-term continuation pattern potentially. So we would look at 0.075 to break out this week to say that there's going to be another surge towards Ethereum and away from Bitcoin. Now, Cardano, again, this was slightly disappointing in the way that it traded. It was stuck in a range, didn't really go with everything else when, you know, the altcoins were rallying. When Bitcoin was over, you know, up at 69,000, this was still deciding that it didn't want to move and it wanted to be in a range. So things that didn't move, I give a little bit of a chance for a catch-up play, but it didn't perform very well. So I don't think that's the end of it by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it needs to consolidate a bit more before it moves higher, and we're just seeing that now. So I don't think I need to rush into buying this at any stage. Just need to wait a little bit longer. But we've got the long-term moving average here, which worked really well back back here, if we go back to September 20th, which I put in the weekly, you can see it bounced off that perfectly. So I think even though it was trading through the bottom of this triangle line, which is not a good sign, I wanted to use this moving average as a potential support point. You may see some algorithmic trading, short-term buys, and if it breaks it, then they'll just get out. But that's not a bad level to have a go at it at. And as I say, the moving averages are still up. So if this does correct, I just think it'll give you a better opportunity to buy longer term. But it's just not moving yet, which is a little frustrating. It's a little frustrating that it didn't move with everything else, but it will have its time. So I think we just need to be a bit more patient with that. And corrections in the other formerly very strong market, like Polkadot. I mean, this is actually forming. It's broken a trend line, which is exit the bull trade and move sideways. But this looks like it might be forming a head and shoulders pattern. So this could be giving us a bit of a lead into a greater correction and a better level to buy for the longer term. But this break of the trend line ends the bull phase. And I think we should sit on the sidelines until we know where this is going to go next. Solana is right on a trend line. Look, this is a really amazing support line that we've drawn in here. It's like 1 and then 2 and then 3, bang on. Now it came out of this correction. So this was the trend rate that we were expecting it to continue upwards from to 270, 260, 270 was the target. But it failed on the low and it's corrected down. So it's hit its major support. So I'm expecting that to now hold. Now, I would like to see it cross back through 216 as a bullish sign. I kind of give the market these hurdles to show that there's strength in buying. The thing with Solana is it has been running hot for a long time. So we were kind of looking for the last blowout phase before a bigger correction anyway and let other things catch up, just because there's been so much talk about it. And in the end, you need a correction in that to come back to kind of, allow some of the other coins to catch up, and the people who wanted to buy it would have bought it. So this, for me, is in a good position to consolidate, but it's sitting on a very nice support level. So I think short term, I would like to see this go up from here, given how good that support level is. And the final one, Matic, again, is just in this range. I mean, it broke out of its triangle and is consolidating. So that's really quite a neutral market. I just think it will drift sideways for now. And we probably need to redraw this resistance line here and use that as the breakout point. But there are some other coins that are doing okay in the some of the altcoins that are doing okay. So I think part of this move is rotation. Part of it is moving out of the out of the majors and into some of the other technologies. For the moment, it's a well-behaved correction. We just need to wait for a bit more evidence to suggest whether this is off to the races again or whether it's going to break some important levels, and we'll just have to sit out a larger retracement before we get, this big bull phase into next year. Now, I would like to see this that the markets move relatively quickly, but I think I need to see a bit more evidence that the dollar's going to weaken before that will kick in. So what do you think, Manu? How do you think we're placed here?
Yeah, look, excuse me. I kind of agree, and it was funny because I remember we had a conversation maybe a week ago about the fact it was weird how you had this trend from the lower left to the upper right in the dollar index since kind of the middle to end of June, and it was weird that we weren't seeing anything really material happen in the crypto market. And then lo and behold, a week later, yes, it happens. So yeah, look, I mean, I think look, if it does go to 97.30, that's quite a big level. And to put it into context, where was it in June? It was probably just above 90. So that's one hell of a move as a percentage, I think. So yeah, I think you're probably right in terms of your timing. I was hoping for a bit of a Christmas bull rally. I'm not sure we're necessarily going to see it in the way I thought. And I think I really hope that it holds the 53, 55 level, 54, because if it doesn't, then this is going to go significantly lower, which is not. I mean, well, look, it's great. It's a great buying opportunity.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's looking to pick up cheap Bitcoin, it's awesome. Not so good for people that kind of took leverage longs at 60,000 though. But
Yeah. I mean, I think overall, it's such a volatile space that taking leverage is probably not the best idea anyway. But yeah, I think there's still a chance we'll see this Christmas rally. I mean, we could see, everything in crypto seems to be fast forward compared to normal markets. You could get a really sharp correction that lasts 2 weeks and then boom, off we go again. It's like it's so volatile that definitely could happen, and that's why we have to look at these levels and try and plan ahead, because if you look at how much volatility there's been from the retracement from the high in a normal market, that would be a crash. But in Bitcoin, that's like just regarded, well, that's how it trades.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. But yeah, look, it'd be interesting to see how the next week or two kind of shape up, really, to try and give us a bit more of a heads up as to what's going to happen between now and the end of the year.
Brilliant stuff. But look, Manu, thank you so much. And thanks for everyone for watching. And we will catch you next time.